How was your work received in the field site, Lukas?
My work, well, I personally was received very well. People, I would say, like my presence. They're very friendly, and I like the cuisine and their hospitality. I mean, everybody. I mean, I was working with villages, then I was working with the governmental agencies responsible for waste management. So obviously, there was a different interest in what I'm doing. But like I gave the example of looking at seaweed in the village, because obviously people weren't interested about waste. And so when I joined, when I actually tried to learn about waste management through seaweed, I was actually spending time of participating and observing something that really matters to them. So, and I was joining them, building houses or attending funerals. So I think I kind of fit in well. But in terms of waste, people couldn't understand why I'm doing it, or they even laughed at times.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
It was difficult. But as you see some pictures from the landfill, I spent some time with informal waste collectors, and they were busy, but they brought some snacks, and we sat down and we talked for a bit. It was also difficult for me because of the pollution and heat and the smell. Obviously, they have to work. I can't keep them away.
Yeah. Okay, we have a couple of questions. Sam Han first, and then Sylvia.
Hi, Lukas. That was really interesting. Thanks. I wanted to know, you mentioned in the presentation that that picture is a picture that you could have taken anywhere in Indonesia, you said. And I wonder whether there were zones of inequality in terms of density of waste, or what the kind of spatial element was. You mentioned that there were folks dropping off rubbish at a landfill. Where are those landfills? Who gets to decide where those landfills go? I would just love to hear more about where the spatial element as to where waste goes and where it gets recycled, etc.
Okay, Sam, thank you for the question. Should I answer right away? Yeah, I answer right away. I think the relation between space and inequality, and also some of the symbolic structural notions about green lines and health waste that I touched on, are very important and interesting. For example, the landfill that you see the picture from, it was near the city, near the main this district's capital, so most of the waste goes there. But the landfill was actually built next to the village of migrants from the neighboring island. So that kind of answers your question. It was built many years back, and it's difficult to get any information about who decided and so on. But usually, this is the landfill that is organized now, kind of governed by the government. But you also have kind of landfills that almost happens by just people trying to throwing waste there, and it gets bigger and so on. And usually you would have those places next to urban poor neighborhoods and so on. If you see a government office in the same district, in the district's capital, it would be beautifully clean and big front garden, grass and so on. So yes, there is certainly that kind of inequality there, yeah. But it's also, as I mentioned, waste management. It's not only about the trucks and the machinery. It's also about another infrastructure, which is roads. I'm also trying to say it's also about education and so on, but it's also about roads, because without that, you see people actually have to, they have to be creative. Burn it or bury it is like the most easiest, but they sometimes drive as like that guy. You'd have to drive to landfill.
Thanks, Sam. Sylvia?
Yes.
We can't hear you, Sylvia. You're muted.
You're muted, Sylvia.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Hello.
Yes. Hi, very quick comment. Thank you, Lukas, for your presentation. I just thought that since zero waste is such a big agenda, not just locally but globally, especially in terms of the UN Sustainability Development Goals, I wonder if that's something that you can somehow include, because the goal 12 especially, it's about ensuring sustainable consumption and production pattern, which directly links with less waste and less pollution, and also talks a little bit about the livelihood. So that might give you additional aspect is to weave into your research. I thought it's just an idea.
Okay, no, thank you, Sylvia. I guess it's not a question, but just to comment on that,
Yeah.
it's a new thing that I'm engaging with, the zero waste. And yes, as I noted, I want to look at what are the discourses and what are the policies, both locally and internationally, and then kind of contrast it, because again, I spent 7 months. I already see the unsustainability of it and the problem and the local translation of zero waste. So yes, some comparison will be needed. Thanks.
Yeah, I also thought this might be useful because each country now reports against what action they've taken in terms of reaching those sustainability development goals, Australia, including in Indonesia. So this could actually count towards their commitment of reducing or increasing the responsible consumption and production. So it could add extra benefit.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, thank you, Sylvia.
Thanks, Sylvia. Dorinda?
There you go. I'll unmute. I just put a comment in the chat. I just find it striking that you use this two different terms for seem to be that the policymakers tended to talk about what you called informal recyclers. I think that's the term you used, but the policymakers tended to call them scavengers. And I just thought that the different implications in the different labels was very striking. And I guess it would be interesting to find out or to investigate where those labels are used and who uses what. So just a comment from me more than a question.
Okay, well, but I have to say that it was my fault. Something was I created these two terms in translation.
Oh, okay.
In Indonesia, you usually have a one term, and that would be close to the scavengers. Yeah.
Right.
It's not necessarily that some government officials use in a different language than common people. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But certainly the policy towards them is interesting, because they've been doing this for years, and that's why I kind of make reference to Simon's concept of people as infrastructure. When people create their own infrastructure or become that infrastructure, or the infrastructure goes through their bodies and so on, embodied. And so it's interesting that the state, instead of acknowledging them, is actually trying to get rid of them by not including them, and by creating policies which trying to do without them, by establishing these waste banks.